Welcome back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. You want to share your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions with us on the issues that we're going to talk about this morning. A quick reminder as well that we are live on a number of radio stations across the country. Welcome to Key Point. And also, we are very, very interactive. You want to share your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions with us. And we'll read out to you and to the rest of the world. My name is Alfred Okansi. This morning, the Minister for Local Government, Martin Ejime-Sakosa, visited the Parks and Gardens office here in Accra, Switchback, because of certain or some documents that the Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, Samuel Okudzeto, had put out concerning that land, that it had been sold or taken over by a private developer. That was not disputed because, at least per the what we saw, there were 2 containers on that land. The minister acknowledged that indeed there's somebody there. And he said the person is an encroacher with no political ties, so we should treat it as that. That when encroachers encroach on lands, it has nothing to do with politics. True. But the fundamental question is how someone that's an encroacher can have the boldness to move and take over Parks and Gardens lands without any powers. What has happened to this encroacher? If indeed he is an encroacher, has he been arrested? We haven't been told that. This, as far as we do know, unless the man who has joined us has some information that this encroacher has been arrested. And that's where we are starting this conversation with. And we'll dovetail into the latest with this ambulance spare parts. This controversial contract for the maintenance of these ambulances. Today we have a lot of ambulance conversations, from ambulance spare parts deal to ambulance trial. And guess what? You and I are still struggling to have access to the ambulances in the midst of all this. Samuel Okudzeto is Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency. He is the chairman of the Assurances Committee of Parliament. And he's still the ranking, or now you've been made a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. And he is the chief interceptor of a number of documents and other issues that we've talked about this morning and throughout the week. Samuel Okudzeto, it's good to have you. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Alfred. Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Good morning to all our distinguished viewers.
Indeed. Also, let me acknowledge the presence of Honorable Yaobo Abiyan-Samoa, former Member of Parliament for the Adenta constituency, a private legal practitioner, and also one of the senior advisors to Alan Kojo Tremantin, the leader of the Movement for Change, and a former anti-corruption, you're still anti-corruption crusader. So, welcome. Good morning to you.
Mr. Gazi, why did you use former and decide to withdraw?
I'm sorry. I mean,
are you implying I'm corrupt now?
No. I mean, that's why I revised. Once an anti-corruption crusader, always
an anti-corruption crusader. Your life demonstrates it. Integrity is important. Good to see you.
That hasn't changed. Also, welcome joining us on Zoom, and because he's out of the jurisdiction, a number of you asked of him last week. Lawyer Martin Pebu is a private legal practitioner. He is the leader of 1 or 3 individual bond owner groups and the convener of the Kumi Preko demonstration. Council, good morning. Welcome. We will rectify the connection with At least you've seen him. Lawyer Martin Kpebo is joining us. But for the next 45 to 1 hour, we have all of this conversation on the issues. But Mr. Blackwell, appreciate you. And you've, I don't want to say later, but you put a lot of documents on my desk this morning. First of all, this Parks and Gardens matter that you put out there, the last time you were here, the minister visited that place. And he said, yes, indeed, there's an encroacher. But then again, the person has no political, ties. So let's treat it as that. Has this encroacher been arrested? At least, based on what you know.
So, you are right that as part of the anti-state capture campaign, I listed a number of prime lands, public lands, that have been sold or are being sold. One of those key prime lands I talked about is the Parks and Gardens lands in cantonments and in Wa. After the expose, I proceeded to file an urgent question in Parliament, which was duly admitted by the Right Honourable Speaker, who is the sole judge for the admissibility of questions in Parliament. Parks and Gardens is a department under the local government ministry. And so the appropriate minister to come respond to questions about the status of the Parks and Gardens land is the local government minister.
Not the lands minister?
Yes, so okay. I directed my question at the lands minister. Sorry, the local government minister, pardon me. And the local government minister came to Parliament on the 4th of July, 2024. And I have the official report here, the Hansard here. And the question specifically was Mr. Okudzeto Ablakwa Northton. The Speaker, I beg to ask the Honourable Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development what the ministry is doing to protect lands belonging to the Department of Parks and Gardens in Accra and other parts of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, this is because of recent claims by some private developers of having secured title to the Department of Parks and Gardens lands, particularly within the cantonments area. In the minister's response, if you pay regard to column 19 of the Hansard, the minister said, quote, in the particular case of the Department of Parks and Gardens land in cantonments, the recent claimant of the portion of the land indicated that he acquired a title to the land in contention, but could not produce same after he took the matter to court.
I see.
The court subsequently dismissed the case and requested the plaintiff to re-enter the case with the proper documentation. The Speaker, our checks, however, revealed that the claimant did not have any valid documentation to the land. I wish to state that the land in question has a valid certificate of allocation dated 2nd October 1952 to the Department of Parks and Gardens. Mr. Speaker, the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, LUSPA, had in 2022 cautioned the general public to stay away from the use of the land for any private development purposes. Pursuant to the Land Use and Spatial Planning Act 2016 and its regulations, as well as the Local Governance Act, the usage of green belts, gardens, and parks cannot be altered except through Parliament. In this regard, the Ministry is working closely with LUSPA to ensure that all the developers and citizenry adhere to the planning and development permitting processes under the purview of the Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies. Unquote. So this was the local government minister's response, stating clearly. And in my follow-up questions, when you go through the Hansard, I asked the minister, are you aware that this private developer has placed 2 containers on the site, is driving away the staff of the Parks and Gardens Department, and has threatened to commence construction of whatever he's coming to put up there? I mean, the concrete jungle continues. I mean, the only horticultural zone, even the colonialists, who we say they came to rape and plunder and loot, even the colonialists, as far back as 1952, knew that we will need a horticultural zone. We will need a green space for our well-being, for the quality of our life, so that we can have, you know, a good ecosystem for survival. Even the colonialists. And it has been preserved since 1952. So how on earth does a private developer gather so much courage, the effrontery, staff of parks and gardens go to work, and they suddenly find these containers, and they are told that they have to prepare to move out, that the place has been sold. Now, interestingly, the local government minister promised us in Parliament that in a few days, he will go move out those containers from there. I followed up on a field inspection, and I confirmed that the local government minister has done exactly that. And indeed, I issued a public statement commending the local government minister, the Honorable Martin J. Mensah-Kosa.
Yes.
And to be very, very honest with you, he is one of the ministers in this government I have enormous respect for. In this state capture matter, all the investigations I have done, he has been on the side of the masses, of Ghanaians, fighting this. But I cannot say same for the Lands Ministry, and particularly the Lands Commission. Will you believe that weeks after, the Lands Minister issues a statement and is attempting some political equalization, saying that, oh, you know, the processes for the sale started under NDC. And so what? And so what? If it started under NDC, he was saying 2015, 2016, and so what? Because my checks indicate that if you look at due process, our LUSPA Act, parliamentary records, that place has not been rezoned. It is still a horticultural zone. So whatever anybody may have started, I don't care when, it is clearly some bad elements in the system, particularly the Lands Commission, who are conspiring with so-called private developers to do this. I was expecting that instead of a defense of this sale, so-called sale, the shenanigans of this private developer by the Lands Ministry and the Lands Commission, they will rather join forces with the local government minister and the rest of us, all of us. Look, and I can give you several instances. Are you aware that these same parks and gardens, they have land in Wa, the only parks and gardens land in Wa? Will you believe that the regional minister discovers that there is an encroachment? Somebody is attempting to build a fuel filling station and tries to stop them. So it's not the Lands Commission in Wa writes to the regional minister to back off. It is one of the questions I asked on that day. And the local government minister told us categorically that the Wa land is intact and should remain as land for parks and gardens. Let me come to column 22 of this Hansard.
In fact, while you're at it, let's just hear from the minister responding to that question on the floor of Parliament. Take a look.
Respective regional lands commissions to take necessary steps to protect all lands belonging to the department. Mr. Speaker, to physically secure these lands, the ministry is taking measures to provide fencing by walling the lands to prevent any encroachment. Mr. Speaker, currently as a minister, I'm still pursuing the matter and engaging all stakeholders to protect and secure the titles of those lands, especially those that do not have ones. On the particular case of the Department of Parks and Gardens land in Cantonments, the recent claimant to the portion of the land indicated that he acquired a title to the land in contention, but could not produce same after he took the matter to court. The court subsequently dismissed the case and requested the plaintiff to re-enter the case with a proper documentation. Mr. Speaker, our checks, however, revealed that the claimant did not have any valid documentation to the land.
So if the claimant did not have any valid documentation to the land, how did he have the effrontery to move containers? I drive past that place a lot. I mean, it's a major road. 2 containers I saw there.
Yes. Yes.
On that land. And you say they threatened Parks and Gardens staff not to come to work.
Yeah.
And the person is still walking free.
Still working free with impunity. If you talk to the former local government minister, they attempted to do some construction there. This so-called private developer. And you see, that is why a number of colleagues and I are sponsoring this private members bill we call the Protection of State Assets Bill. The only way to stop this marauding invasion where state capture is taking place on a scale that we have never seen. And we will soon come to the prisons lands, both at the Bosta Institute, at the Osu Enclave. We still have to talk about the W.E.B. Du Bois, 50-year transfer. I mean, and all over the country, Kumasi, Rage, Takrade, Ho, Wa, Boga. It's as though Ghana won't exist in a few weeks. Everything is being sold with impunity, without recourse to due process.
So the Lands Commission, what's the position on this matter? Quickly, and then
yes.
we'll run up.
So the Lands Commission clearly is complicit. And you see, I have here the Sole Enquirer's report on the demolition of the Bulgarian embassy. You know, it was similar shenanigans where the Bulgarian embassy, land belonging to the Bulgarian embassy, is cantonments. People fraudulently, according to the Justice Oforiatta Commission, private actors and elements at the Lands Commission fraudulently cancelled the lease of the Bulgarian embassy. I'm not the one saying it. It's here, if you read this report. And will you believe that when you read page 17 of this report, the acting executive secretary of the Lands Commission told the Sole Enquirer that, quote, "We are having situations where government land is registered as private land." Can you believe that? Government land is registered as private land. Yes, you see, ideally, before you give a certificate, you have to check all the records of the commission. Unfortunately, sometimes due process are not followed and certificates are issued. Can you believe that? And that is what led to the fraudulent transfer of the Bulgarian embassy's land to a gentleman called Jojo Hagan, who government says is now on the run. They cannot find. They cannot find him to pay the compensation. Now there's 5.2 million Ghana cedis compensation outstanding for the Bulgarians. And the Bulgarians are running out of patience. And
so if they can't find him, who will eventually have to bear that burden?
Government will eventually, and that means taxpayers. Don't forget that already, when the properties belonging to the Nigerian High Commission was demolished, we had to pay for it, the Ghanaian taxpayer. So these hoodlums, these nation wreckers, acting with unpatriotic elements in cahoots with them at the Lands Commission, create this mess, and then we are made to pay for it. Now you have the Sole Enquirer in a commission of inquiry discovering that there are unpatriotic elements at the Lands Commission. Do you know that as the prison service currently is in court battling to protect the Bosta Institute land, the Lands Commission is giving evidence against the Ghana Prison Service? Can you believe that?
The Bosta Institute?
Yes.
Yes,
at Roman Ridge.
Roman Ridge.
At Roman Ridge. They are in a battle of their lives. And I salute the Ghana Prison Service. Because they are all appointees of the president, but they have stood firm. Because they are fighting a very powerful person, the senior advisor to the vice president, Professor Apiedu. He says that that land belongs to him. He bought it in 2005. President Kufuor said they should give it to him. And is battling the Ghana Prison Service. But will you believe that the Lands Commission, instead of aligning with the prison service, I have the court documents here. They have gone to court to say that the Ghana Prison Service should back off. And there are several of these instances. That is why this week we summoned the Lands Minister at the Assurances Committee to come tell us what has happened to the question we filed 2.5 years ago on the need to provide a full list, a comprehensive data on all public lands. If you read Article 257 of our Constitution, Article 257(1) is very clear. It's not ambiguous at all. It says that all public lands in Ghana shall be vested in the president on behalf of and in trust for the people of Ghana. So the lands belong to us. Mm-hmm. The president only holds them in trust on our behalf. Will you believe that virtually 3 years now, the lands minister says he can't provide us that list? So where, I mean, what land is the president holding in trust for us?
So, because I recall when Samuel Janapo appeared before you, it's your committee, the Assurances Committee, which you are chair, you said that records of all public lands from 1993 to date should be submitted to the 8th Parliament before the end of this 8th Parliament.
Yes, so that is our final ruling on the matter, that before the end of this, because he says that they are struggling, that they have their...
And I recall that the first time he made this statement that he was going to make public all state lands that had been sold to people, because, you know, when this John Whale came up, then media started asking questions that if Achimota Forest has been whaled, then which other state land? Then the politics of it came in and said, well, I mean, look, NPP and NDC, you've all been selling land. So he is coming to give the details of the persons who have been buying state lands. It's been 3 years now. We don't have that information.
And you have your committee... And you have a lands commission that under Article 258, this is their job. It says that there shall be established a lands commission which shall, in coordination with the relevant public agencies and governmental bodies, perform the following functions. On behalf of the government, manage public lands and any lands vested in the president by this constitution or by any other law or any lands vested in the commission. So what are they managing? If you don't have the data, you can't give it to us. Look, I am clear in my mind is that it is not a case of not having data. They don't want to be transparent. They don't want to be accountable. They don't want us to have the data. Because, look, on a daily basis, see the demolitions going on. It was on this show that I read the letter the Works and Housing Ministry's chief director wrote to all the occupants of Roman Ridge flats, the public servants there. You know they are evicting them. They've given them notice to leave. That under the so-called Accra redevelopment policy, it has caught up with them. They have to leave. Private developers are taking over. So when they must sell these public lands, when they want to sell them, they have the data, they know where they are, they move in quickly, evict people, distinguished public servants who are serving this country diligently, they just throw them out. Meanwhile, it is for good reason that all of these land banks were acquired. As far back, sometimes during the colonial era.
I see.
When would the current generation of political leaders also acquire land banks for future development? Look, Ghana is not coming to an end. There is no Armageddon where this country probably will be dissolved. I haven't heard about that. So we will need land for hospitals. We will need land for factories to create jobs for the young people of this country. We will need more bungalows for public servants, for civil servants, for nurses, for doctors, for teachers. And yet the current generation of leaders, this current government, is all about selling. When you ask for accountability, where are the public lands? How many have you sold? How many are left? Then you hit a cul-de-sac. They don't want to give you the list. Meanwhile, under the Constitution, you are supposed to be managing this on our behalf. So if you say you don't know, you don't have the data, you are struggling to compare them, what are you managing on our behalf? Should you be in that office? Should you remain in that office? I mean, what's going on in this country?
Well, see,
and you see, and these are the deliberate, secrecy, shadowy conduct, haziness, opacity. Then it allows for all kinds of, miscreants to play in the dark spaces. And that is what led to the demolition of the Bulgarian embassy, demolition of properties to the Nigerian High Commission. Parks and Gardens is going. Now, do you know that the Parks and Gardens land in Wa, the fuel filling station developer, says that he legitimately acquired the land from Lands Commission. He has gone to court seeking to injunct the local government minister from from demolishing the fuel filling station, and you have the Lands Commission supporting the private developer against the local government minister. The Minister for Lands actually issued a statement saying that it has been rezoned. I mean, when the Lands Minister knows that under the LUSPA Act, you cannot do any rezoning, particularly of our green spaces, without parliamentary approval. So who did that illegal rezoning?
So this matter never came before Parliament?
Never. I mean, so look, the nation records, the state capture is on a scale. Look, just walk around. Go to cantonments, go to Ridge. Bungalows on a daily basis are being demolished. And in their place, all kinds of high-rise, humongous structures that the public servants are dislodged from, judges are dislodged from. They are not even given a quota. I mean, what is happening? Why are we doing this to this country and to the next generation, the young ones coming after? What would they say? Look at how we read the history of this beautiful history. 1952, we acquired this for parks and gardens. 1930-something, this was acquired for forests. 1948, this place was acquired, preserved for horticulture zone. When are we also going to be acquiring and protecting, preserving for the next generation, land banks for future development? When?
See, and I need to move on to the other issue, because now, on this matter, your committee, the Assurances Committee, has given a deadline to the Minister for the Lands and Natural Resources to provide the details of these public lands between 1993 to date, to the 8th Parliament, before this 8th Parliament ends. So we have a deadline to work with. If that doesn't happen, we'll know what to do. But
and Alfred, I need to emphasize that I'm totally disappointed in the President.
For what?
Because at the end of the day, under Article 257, this is his job. He's the one, he should be accounting to us. You are just a trustee on our behalf. And then you have your ministers at cross purposes, your appointees. A few are trying to salvage what is left. The rest are conspiring with so-called private developers. And only God knows, because the kind of power, if you see what has happened to even the judges' bungalows.
You mentioned that.
You know, the audacity that these so-called private developers have, even when there's an injunction. Do you know that the Judicial Service ran to court, secured an injunction against demolition of their bungalows? It was defied in 2023, last year. These private developers defied the injunction and went ahead. They must have some real backing. So, President Akufo-Addo, why do you sit back? Unless you are complicit. Because, I mean, that's only what can explain what is going on. Because under Article 257 of the Constitution, you are holding these lands in trust on our behalf. And you sit back, we are losing all of this. State capture is on a scale that we have never seen before, and you appear helpless.
I see.